Hello class. Today we are covering section 3.2. Please turn to page 149 in your textbook. We are looking at section 3.2, use parallel lines and transversals. So, before you begin looking at the notes, you do want to again read over the different postulates and theorems for this section to help you understand the corresponding angles, alternate interior angle theorem, alternate exterior angle theorem, consecutive interior angle theorem. And you also want to make sure you are aware of what a transversal is. Look at number 3. Number 3 says, in the figure at the right, which angle has the same measure as angle 1? So most of the classes we have started off with number 3. And we know that the answer for number 3 is C, angle 4. And the reason it's C is because angles 1 and angle 4 are corresponding angles. If you notice on my notes today, I drew out some of the different diagrams so you can look at the different parallel lines and transversals. It is very similar to what's in the textbook. One thing I did a little different is I kept my lines horizontal. And the reason I did that is so you'll know they're parallel lines. Because again, parallel lines have the same slope. So you want to make sure you know that parallel lines have the same slope. But look at number 5. It says, find the angle measure. Tell which postulant or theorem you use. So for number 5, it says, if the measure of angle 7 equals 110 degrees, then the measure of angle 2 equals blank. So we want to see what is my answer for the measure angle 2. They told me angle 7 is 100. On number 5, they said that measure angle 7 is 110 degrees, and I have to find the measure angle 2. If I look at 2 and 7, and I think about my theorems, I know that these are alternate exterior angles. They are outside of the parallel lines, and they're on opposite sides of my transversal line. So because these are alternate exterior angles, the measure angle 2 is also 110 degrees. Number 7, it says, if the measure angle 3 equals 117 degrees, then the measure of angle 5 equals blank. Look at the information. We have angle 3, which is 117 degrees, and we're looking for angle 5. If I look at 3 and 5, we notice they're on the same side of the transversal line, and it's one behind the other. They're also inside the two parallel lines. So angles 3 and 5 are my consecutive interior angles. And we know consecutive interior angles are supplementary. Two angles that add to equal 180 degrees. So if I take 180 degrees minus 117 degrees, I have 63 degrees, which is the measure of angle 5. Angle 3 and angle 5 are supplementary, so that means that angle 5 is 63 degrees. Number 9. Number 9 says, what postulant or theorem justifies the statement about the diagram? As you can see, I had drew a very similar diagram to what's in the book. My numbers are in the same order as it is in the book, okay? So that part makes it easy. If I look at number 9, we are looking for angles 1 and angle 5. I need to know, why are these two angles congruent? And they are congruent because they are corresponding angles. If you notice, they're below the parallel lines, and they're also on the same side of the transversal line. So because it meets those conditions, they are corresponding. It is a corresponding angle postulant. Number 11. why is angle 2 and angle 7 congruent? If you look at this, they're on opposite sides of my transversal, so they're alternate. They're inside the parallel lines. So for number 11, angles 2 and 7 are congruent by the alternate interior angles theorem. Number 13, I'm looking at angle 3 and angle 6. Again, they're on opposite sides of the transversal. That makes them alternate. They're also on the outside of the parallel lines. So these are alternate exterior angles. 13, my answer, angle 3 is congruent to angle 6 by the alternate exterior angle theorem. Number 15, it says that angle 1 is congruent to angle 8. Again, they're on alternate sides of the transversal line. They're both on the outside of the parallel lines. So my answer here is alternate exterior angle theorem as well. Okay, look at number 17. 17 says, find the measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 2. Explain your reasoning. So for number 17, I need to figure out what is the measure of angle 1. The given information, what's given is 150 degrees. If I look at the position of these two angles, I can see that these two angles are corresponding. So by the corresponding angle postulant, I know that they're congruent. So the measure of angle 1 is equal to 150 degrees by the corresponding angle postulant. Now look at the measure of angle 2. When you see an X, okay, if you notice I see that X, that means the angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. So because these two are vertical angles, I can say that the measure of angle 2 is 150 degrees. If you look at this illustration again, I can also see that these are also alternate exterior angles, and alternate exterior angles are also congruent. So I could have said that these are congruent by the vertical angle congruence theorem, or I could have said by alternate exterior angles as well. Look at number 21. 21 says, this is a short response. We want to make sure we understand what those symbols are saying in the reading. So for number 21, 21 says, given line P is parallel to line Q, describe two methods you can use to show that angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. So I'm trying to prove that angle 1 is congruent to angle 4 here. The obvious answer is I see that they're on opposite sides of the transversal, so they're alternate. They're above below the parallel lines, so they're outside of the parallel lines. So I can say by the alternate exterior angle theorem, they're congruent. So that's my first answer I have here. So for 21, it says angle 1 is congruent to angle 4 by the alternate exterior angle theorem. Now this next one, it's a little tricky. I had to figure out how angle 1, angle 4 is congruent. I had to find another method. So I'm going to kind of go around the world to get back to my answer. But off the top, I know that angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent because they are vertical angles. I also know that angle 2 and angle 3 are congruent because they are alternate interior angles, and alternate interior angles are congruent. Now, if I apply my transitive property, if angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, that means that angle 1 and angle 3 are congruent by transitive property. So let's go over that again. If angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, then angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 by transitive property. So if that's the case, if 1 and 3 are congruent, then that means that angle 3 is also congruent to angle 4. So if angle 3 and angle 4 are congruent, then I know 1 and 4 are congruent. So again, I can apply transitive property again. And I can say if angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, and angle 3 is congruent to angle 4, then angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. And that's what we have right here in the writing here. Okay? So by transitive property, I was able to conclude that angles 1 and 4 were congruent. And also by the alternate exterior angle theorem, I can say that angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. Look at number 23. It says, find the measure of angle 1, the measure of angle 2, and the measure of angle 3. Explain your reasoning. Now, I see parallel lines cut by two transversal lines. I have two parallel lines cut by two transversal lines. So this is a line by itself, and that's a transversal line by itself. So you want to pay attention to that first off. Now, looking at angle 1 and 9 degrees. So I can say that, okay, these are consecutive interior angles. They're inside the parallel lines and on the same side of the transversal. So these are consecutive interior angles. And if that's the case, if this is 90, this is also 90. And I know consecutive interior angles are supplementary, so I know 90 plus 90 gives me 180 again. On this side here, I noticed that angles 3 and 115 degrees, they form a linear pair. And I know that linear pairs are supplementary. So if I take 180 minus 115, that gives me 65 degrees, which is the measure of angle 3, because they're linear pairs. Again, angle 2 and 3 are also consecutive interior angles. And we know consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So if I say 180 minus 65 for my previous answer, I get 115, which makes them consecutive interior angle theorem. Also, I can say angle 2 and 115 are also corresponding, so that we know corresponding angles are congruent. Okay? Look at number 27. It says find the values of x and y. So this one, if you notice, I drew up my diagram and I see two parallel lines. I used my patty paper, and you can also see that diagram where you see the two parallel lines cut by a transversal. So if I look at my patty paper, I can see that this is a triangle here. So by the triangle sum theorem, I know that if I add all three angles up, it should always equal to 180 degrees. If I say 180 minus 85 minus 45, I should get 50 for this angle here. Now, if I look at this diagram, I can see that these are alternate interior angles, which means they are congruent. So if this angle is 45, that means angle X is also 45 degrees. I also see a straight angle here. And I know a straight angle is 180 degrees. So if I take 50 degrees, 180 minus 50 minus 45, I should get angle Y. So if I look at this again, I know that 180 minus 45, which is here, and this is my 50, I should get 85 for angle Y. So definitely write those down, and we'll review that some more.